My name's Dave, I'm an addict.
Hey Dave.
I always start off by saying, this is my least favourite spot to be in. I've been doing these a few years now and it's still sit here shaking, wondering what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say. So whatever comes out. It's part of it. Like I say, it's not my favourite. My recovery at the moment is really, really good. I've just recently celebrated another sobriety birthday. And I really don't know. I got there and someone said to me, "You didn't, God did. God got you there." And thinking back, I don't know. It's just, my recovery started back in, 1997. I went into treatment, came out of prison, went into treatment, and I hear that a lot. And I spent the next sort of 13 years I got 5 years recovery. I think I had a year, I had 8 months. And the story of my life is I've always tried to find the easier, softer way and go to any lengths to prove you wrong that I was right. Before that, I was thinking on the way down, I used to say I was heavily involved in the rave scene in Bournemouth, but I wasn't. I was heavily involved in the drug scene in Bournemouth. And I would take hostages and I'd manipulate people just so I didn't have to go home. And if I did go home, normally there'd be a trail of 20, 30 cars behind me following me to my house or wherever, or someone's house that didn't know they were going to have a party. So yeah, I came out of prison. You don't have to go to prison to be in this fellowship. I didn't like being in prison. And luckily enough, my mum, who had rescued me many times, she wasn't much of a mom. She left when I was really young, but every time I needed her, she just seemed to appear. She got me into a treatment centre. I absolutely loved being in treatment. I came to Bournemouth. I did treatment for about 8 months. I did lots of meetings, but I never really got involved with the programme. I got involved with service. I got involved with turning up to meetings. But the steps in the programme weren't really for me. I just sort of bundled through it, and just stayed in the background in recovery. I just turned up, and I got to about 5 years, and I started drifting off. Before that, sort of 6, 8 months before that, I started drifting off, and all the people that I worked with had a little sort of business, and they were all in recovery. But the more work we did, the less recovery we did. I started smoking a bit of weed, and then I ended up going on holiday, which I'd arranged with someone in recovery, and they took a drink after about 10 days of being there, and I took a drink straight away, and that one drink lasted 5 years, and I'd built up a family, a business and everything, and lost everything again. But then I started using fellowship. When I did come back, I was desperate, and as soon as I felt better, I'd be back out the door again, because I just wasn't doing it. I just wasn't getting. I was all right at meetings, and I knew the buzzwords, and people would leave me alone because I'd been around a while. But the story of my life is I wanted to fit in, and I needed something to take me out of me to fit in. But when I got to meetings, it was just me, and I didn't know where to go. I was scared, and the longer I was around, people kind of left me alone, and I could talk outside, and I could have a fag, and we used to go fishing a lot, and did lots of things. But I always used recovery when I would come back, and I started to feel better, and things were good. And then I would just say, press the bucket button, because it was too good and I didn't deserve it. And I just thought, well, I can beat this. I'll go, like it says in the book, I'll go and drink and use again like a normal person. I never did that anyway. But so yeah, that destroyed everything. And I think when you know a lot about recovery, or I had a lot of knowledge about recovery, and I'm back out there using it. It's just so destroying. Like in your mind, it was worse than ever before, and I kept bumping into people in recovery who kept saying to me, "Are you all right? How's it going?" And I would have to lie. "Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's not too bad." And I'd avoid them. And just a little story: I was in a music venue in Southampton one night, and I was watching a band. I had a pint in my hand, and it was busy. And I turned around, and I was surrounded by people from Fellowship. And I was like, "Fuck!" And I went and got out there, and sat down. I just went like that, and I turned around, and my sponsor was sat next to me. And that's just. So something inside me knew it was wrong, but I just couldn't stop. And I lived in a house with people that were using all the time. And it got to about 2009. And I'm jumping around a bit here, but about 2009, it was about August. I was living in somewhere, and we were all sort of bang at it, and we were using, every day. I had my own business, but I was up half the night and didn't know what I was doing half the day. And it lasted from August to about January. And I wanted to get back to meetings, and every night I wanted to go to a meeting and start my life again, and I knew it would be better. And every day, the obsession would take over, and before lunch I'd be back. And it got to New Year's Eve 2010, and I didn't need another rock bottom. I had about 4 drinks, I think. They weren't a great sort of blast to go out with. And the next day I went to a meeting, and from that day to this I haven't touched another drink or a drug since. It's and I think the fear, what got me back and kept me back was the fear of dying. And all my kids would have known is that I was an alcoholic and a junkie, and I think that frightened me enough to just stay around. And previous to that, I'd lied to my mum as well for 5 years, who'd done everything, and I'm sure she knew, but I'd lied to her saying I was in recovery, but she would come and knock the door, and I would avoid her. And anyway, she got terminal cancer, and this was just before I came back in recovery, so I never had a chance to make any amends. And by the time I got to the hospital, she never, spoke another word. So that was going through my recovery. That's quite a tough one, because I just never got a chance to do anything, and that lying at the time kind of eats. The longer I was in recovery, or the first 5 years there, would eat me away, because I just couldn't do anything about it apart from stay clean and sober, because if there's a higher power, then maybe my mum's out there as well, and I just pay that amends by each day just doing something to stay in recovery. And I did find the first 5 years, recoveries I've never found difficult. The obsession leaves me straight away from when I come in. What I find difficult is life, and trying to do the next right thing, and trying to be a better person, and other people like that close to me now say, I'm not really one to say this, but I don't give myself enough credit for the recovery that I've done and the things I've done, and I don't look back and think how far I've come. I just try and stay in the day. But just recently I've started to look back and think, what did I feel like? Or I come to these meetings and I realise it brings things up that people in the first 30 days, that's incredible. Your first time coming in a meeting, you're shitting yourself, and you're staring at the carpet, or you're trying to count something, or the chair's uncomfortable, or and I still, if I'm honest, stayed away. I had a sponsor because somebody said, "Oh, he'll sponsor you," so I went and got this sponsor, and I knew him from treatment. And for the first, I don't even want to say this, but for the first 10 years, I did no step work. No, I did 1, 2, 3, bounce back, 1, 2. I just did that 1, 2, 3. I had a little look at 4. He said he wanted a load of rye, and I thought, I ain't doing that. And my recovery was all right, because I had lots of things when it got bad to change the way I felt without using, clothes, women, holidays, jackets, trainers, tattoos, sex, anything. And then it got to it got to lockdown, and as everything was closing down, like, I was all right, and then somebody who was living at my house brought somebody in who, for some reason, asked me to help her in recovery, and I knew I couldn't. I knew I didn't have the knowledge to help her. And then from that, it seemed to, the whole world sort of like collapsed in, if you like. I was thinking about suicide. I'd never had the courage to do suicide. I gave my van, I think I was just going to drive in that wall down the end, and I even rang up 111 or something like that, and I said, get some help, and I wasn't sleeping. And it got, I just couldn't, and I found someone, luckily enough, who I just said, look, I'm desperate, I need to go through this work. We went through the work really quick, and it's the first time that, I thought I'd surrendered, but I totally surrendered then. And I went through that work, and guess what? My life changed. I'd gone all them lengths to prove everybody wrong, and I just did that simple thing, and my life completely turned around. I think the one thing that kept me going right up to that point is somebody said to me, if you get on your knees every morning, I've never heard of anybody who got on their knees first thing in the morning and prayed and then went out and relapsed. And I just took it that made me bulletproof. And that's what I did, I still do it every day. I get up, the first thing I do is I do them readings, and I just ask to be guided through that day. At night, I'm just thankful for another day of recovery. And it's not every day at night. I do struggle at night to do recovery, but I think the longer I'm in my day now is I try not to do harms to others. If I know that I've been a dickhead, I apologise straight away. I find a way. I don't need to write a list to do it. I need to, because it eats away at me. I do. I try and do as much service as I can. I was always told that if I was asked to share or do service, especially to share, then I just said yes, because I've got nothing better to do than give back to what's freely given to me and what's kept me alive, and it's changed my life. And I've had a job for the longest I've ever had a job. I've never been arrested in recovery. I've been pulled over a few times in recovery, and I'm just waiting for him to say, when was your last drink, but he never did. I did get pulled over one time with a headlight out, and I'd just come out of a meeting, and he said, where have you been? And I said, I've been to A, and he said, go on, fuck off, don't tell me that. But yeah, it's other service. I'm luckily part of the festivals committee, the CA UK, trying to organise different festivals where we take CA into festivals, and I did one last year, and it was amazing. There was a tent in there. We did 2 meetings a day. We did public service throughout the day. We were getting like 20, 30 people at every meeting inside a festival, and I think, when I went to festivals, I wouldn't even want to be there. It's like we had people who'd found recovery at that festival, and 5 years later we're back in that tent, still clean. It's incredible. The people that work there, who were in recovery, came on their way to work, because they're working there. It's in my recovery, I worked with a band. I toured with a band for about 10 years in between working. There's a free bar every night. It didn't bother me. I've been to many festivals. I can go anywhere, if I'm spiritually fit. I try and help others. I find that difficult sometimes, because you can see how you can help them. You can tell them till you're blue in the face, but until you get that, you concede to your innermost self that you've had enough, you're broken. Because I did it myself, I couldn't be told. And hopefully, if you're in there and you're new, listen and hope. I hope you get it. I hope that you find a new life. Because everything that I didn't want to do before, because I used to look out the garden and think, why is he mowing the grass on a Sunday, and why is he cutting, cleaning the car, and why is he walking the dog, are all the things that I now do. I'm that sad person that I want to go out for walks. I still love going out in nature and find it amazing that I used to walk past. Well, I didn't used to walk. I didn't used to look. I was only on a mission to get whatever I needed out of life. And hopefully now I can give some back. I help out a district. That's been amazing. People have really helped me. I've learned a lot. Some good, some bad. Yeah, and I don't know how long I've gone on for, Jimmy, but
it's fine,
I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for asking me. And I'll leave it there, I think.
Thanks.